Now, more and more companies, big and small, are choosing to focus on a purpose rather than their profit margins. We'll take a look inside one main company that's doing just that.
Plus, you're back to school shopping at the main mall, you're buying your kids some shoes, and a man walks up and says he'll pay for them. Pretty cool, right? And it turns out that man's a famous rapper. Even cooler, right? We got the full story tonight. This is News Center Now.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Lindsay Mills.
And I'm Lee Nelson. Tonight, doing business and doing good. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, more and more companies are finding that this combined strategy can really be lucrative. Big companies like Patagonia, the outdoor clothing retailer, Seventh Generation, known for its cleaning products, and Tom's Footwear all have one thing in common. They are what's called certified B corporations, or B Corps. That means they are for-profit businesses using their force for good.
It's part of a new movement of corporations, big and small, choosing to focus on society over shareholders. There are several main companies among the 3,000 B Corp corporations worldwide. And for the fourth year in a row, MainWorks is getting top honors for redefining what success means for business.
I thought there would be no end. I just thought I was going to end up dying.
Struggling with heroin addiction, Peter King thought death was his only option.
My mental health, my physical health, relationships, family, everything, I lost a lot. I haven't lost everything completely, but it's taken a toll, definitely.
Jonathan Ariano is recovering from alcoholism.
There was no money. There was, here's your last paycheck and a ride to Portland. And somehow I figured it out from there.
Like Peter and Jonathan, Cecil Solly-Guerin figured out how to get his life back on track. They all found that life-saving help at MainWorks.
These people don't have time.
Margot Walsh founded the company more than 8 years ago. She wanted to help people out of jail, in recovery, or down on their luck get their life back.
They cannot afford to not be in a money-making outcome immediately.
MainWorks connects its employees with local construction jobs with a steady paycheck, breaking the cycle of homelessness and addiction. Their mission earning them B Corp certification by the nonprofit B Lab, which ensures a business has narrowed its focus on purpose over profit. And for the fourth year in a row, MainWorks has been recognized as best for the world.
The first B Corp was Patagonia, and I really respect their ethos of putting the planet first.
From saving the planet to saving everyday people.
I couldn't even see tomorrow back then. And that's what's so great about this.
MainWorks joining a global movement in balancing missions and margins.
It's helped me out a lot. It's nice going to work every day and not having to think about everything.
So a couple of other main companies that are B Corp certified are Revision Energy and Coffee by Design. Many businesses have noticed social responsibility is good for the bottom line because the more emphasis they put on the communities, the better it is for them.
Makes sense. Glad more and more are doing it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay, very much. Hey, let's talk to Keith. Not the greatest day out there today, but there's always tomorrow, right, Keith?
There is. Tomorrow looks great, actually. But
I knew that. That's why
in the meantime, you were paying attention at noon. Saw you. You put down your phone for a while. We still have severe thunderstorm watches for Cumberland and York County and into New Hampshire as well. So these have been posted for a couple of hours. Thus far, the action has been to our south, down across Massachusetts. Actually, tornado warning going down right now into Connecticut. So there is shear, there's spin in the atmosphere, so we still have to watch these, but so far we haven't popped up too much. There's our first severe one right now, actually coming into the mountains coming out of northern New Hampshire. So we'll continue to watch this line. Interestingly, this is not where the models had initialized a strong line of storms, but that looks like the strongest line coming out of Canada into the mountains of Maine right now, and it's going to be straight line winds, the main threat with any storms. So you can see that line coming through and starting to peter out by later on tonight, 8, 9 o'clock at the latest. After that, temperatures start dropping into the 50s and even some 40s into the mountains. And tomorrow is definitely the best day of the week, work week otherwise. Right around 70 degrees in the afternoon, sunshine from start to finish. And then Friday, we start with a little bit of sun, but clouds increase in the afternoon. Guys, the clouds on Friday will actually be from Dorian, which will make a close enough path to us to have some sort of impact. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
All right, Keith, thanks. Checking out some other headlines at the hour. Hurricane and storm surge warnings are being extended as Hurricane Dorian crawls up a path parallel to the East Coast. The storm surge warning is now in effect from north of Port Canaveral, Florida, up to the North Carolina-Virginia border. The storm's maximum sustained winds remain near 105 miles an hour, so it's still a Category 2 hurricane. At least 7 deaths have been reported in the Bahamas.
It looks like Michigan is going to be the first state to ban flavored e-cigarettes. The reason they are going after flavored is their obvious appeal to young people. The governor there has ordered the state health department to issue emergency rules prohibiting the sale of flavored nicotine vaping products both in-store and online. So how long this ban will stand is anybody's guess because it will be challenged. The American Vaping Association calls the move a, quote, shameless attempt at backdoor prohibition, and they say they will support lawsuits to challenge the ban.
The Inspector General for Health and Human Services has been studying the children who were separated from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border. They've found that those kids show increased signs of post-traumatic stress. That, plus the reunification process, has actually added to their trauma. The report recommends minimizing time children are in custody and creating better care options. Well, a man originally from Haiti who lived and worked for years in Waterville has been pardoned by Governor Janet Mills for a drug conviction 11 years ago.
His name is Lexius St. Martin. The question is, will this pardon help bring him home because he was deported back to Haiti in early 2018? He could have been deported years ago, but President Obama delayed such deportations to Haiti after the terrible earthquake there. But St. Martin was forced to leave the U.S. last year when former Governor Paul LePage would not grant a pardon. It's the drug conviction that led to ICE agents arresting him in the first place.
So what is next for him and his family? Here to talk more about these types of situations is Leslie Silverstein, who works for Maine Immigration Attorneys. Leslie, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
What is next for Lexius in this process?
So the answer, like most things in immigration, is it depends. So nothing in immigration is easy. In fact, it's the reverse. Since he's already outside the country, he could try to apply to get a visa to return. But the problem is there is a provision in what's called the FAM, which is the Foreign Affairs Manual, and this is what the consular officers use when determining if someone is admissible. And there is a provision in there that specifically states if the pardon is for a substance or drug-related offense, it doesn't count. They don't care. So,
wow. So
he
what?
has no easy route back. There might be a possibility of filing a motion to reopen his original removal proceedings. However, that is also a complicated process, and that, again, would be up to the immigration judge. The argument he would make is, look, my conviction has now been pardoned. In effect, I wasn't convicted, and now I should be eligible to apply for other forms of relief, such as cancellation of removal, or he might have an asylum claim, he might have a withholding of removal. There's certain defenses that he would first have to get that removal proceeding reopened to even try to assert those defenses.
So there's a pretty big wall he has to climb, is what you're saying.
It's not easy.
Is there a precedent here for someone who's had this happen to them in the past and made it back into the United States that attorneys can use?
There's probably not one precedent. You know, there's certain circuit courts that have ruled different ways.
Okay.
It's definitely worth pursuing. It's just he has a complicated road. It's not, you know, people hear the word pardon and they think that's it, he's in. And it is not the case at all. So,
as an immigration lawyer, and you've done lots of law over your career,
yes.
Have you seen these types of cases increase in recent years or change in recent years?
I think the change we've seen is just increased enforcement, obviously, and more people are being deported. Yeah, where people used to just be able to report to ICE and remain here, we are obviously seeing a vast increase in deportations.
All right, we might have to have you back in to talk more about this at some point. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Well, shoes are often high on the list of back-to-school items you need to purchase. We'll meet one family in Maine that was gifted some free kicks thanks to a celebrity.
Yeah, it's a cool story. And for students at Belfast Area High School, going back to school looks a little different this year. We'll explain why coming up.
So great. I'll help you with your microphone. Yeah, you're good to unclip it and.
Any other questions, let me know.
Yeah.
We do a lot of different types, like family-based and green card.
It's good. Isaac was able to find you today. I'm sure he will be reaching back out. Let me see. I think here. There you go. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, and feel free to your stuff's on my desk. And do you know the way out? I can walk you up too. I'll find it. I know that.
Do you
Thank you so much. Very nice to meet you.
do you know Christian Terrison by any chance?
He
Okay.
used to share space with us.
Oh, great.
But he doesn't do immigration anymore.
Oh, he doesn't.
He does disability now.
Okay. So he also was the bass player in my son's rock band.
He's so awesome. I mean, at his own wedding, he jumped up on the stage.
No way.
Yeah, he's
That's
the
cool.
nicest.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But they had a child and had to
Settle down.
consolidate.
Yeah. Had a child and then no, don't let people scare you. That's awesome. And just bring your baby everywhere. That's what I did.
That's right.
Did
That's
you
right.
really?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Because then you don't feel deprived.
There you go.
Then they get used to going places.
There you go. They're socialized. Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Take care.
So yeah, that was definitely an interesting conversation with Leslie Silverstein, and I know so many of you were joining that conversation way before in the day. As soon as we posted that story, I mean, it's still on our top of our charts here today.
So complicated, isn't it?
It is
so much
so
of the stuff we're
complicated.
dealing with now is just so complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder the hoops that let's just say that he wants to come back.
Sure.
And let's just say nobody, that fine, everyone's fine with him coming back. The hoops he will have to jump through potentially for years and years in order to do it. Is that a good use of your time? At some point, do you have to go, I would love to get back, but I need to live my life.
Right. I think in this case he would argue, just from the interview with his wife when we spoke to her last year, I mean, his family's here.
Well, can they, they could go see him.
visit,
I mean, I know
yeah.
they want to be here, and I'm not downplaying that in any way, shape, or form, but it's just so complicated.
It is so complicated. It's so complicated. It's really interesting. All right, no surprises here. Maine is the oldest state in the nation.
Don't look at me when you say that. New stats from the Alzheimer's Association predict that Maine will see a 25% increase in folks living with Alzheimer's between now and 2025. Today, local leaders met in Lewiston to talk about the proposed $350 million increase in Alzheimer's research funding at the National Institutes of Health next year. Congressman Jared Golden said why he is supporting this initiative.
And this proposed increase of $350 million a year, which would get us up over $2.5 billion a year, that sounds like a lot of money to people, but I think that when they hear that the annual societal cost is more like in the hundreds of billions, they understand why it's a small but very important investment to make in finding a cure.
And also, St. Andre Healthcare in Biddeford has announced that it is now in the second of 3 phases of fundraising for its new memory care garden, which is scheduled for completion next spring. All right, being thankful for getting shoes for free and the surprise of who did this. We've got to show you this story coming
It's
up.
a great story. And Keith returns with a look at the forecast. That's ahead. That was another Trump reference, and today I understood that.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I love your tweet, Jess. That was so funny.
Yeah, but so those of you who are wondering why Sharpie is trending at #1 on Twitter.
Yeah. If you're wondering, just go look at Twitter. Oh, look, they shot this morning. That's great. The promo for the home opener, season opener.
Is he going now?
Yeah.
Just he's within the range of allowed.
Exactly. He's pumped. He'll make it back if you know, baby time happens. Oh, look what it is. Are we in newsroom?
Where are we going?
Oh, over here.
Wow, I don't know. Hi there.
Hey.
Lee Nelson.
Lee, how are you? Scott Neville.
Scott, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I think we're going to be talking to you in our next half hour.
Okay. How's it going?
Good.
All right.
Is this Belfast? Is that where we are?
Yes, I believe so. Belfast.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, you're going to have to walk and read that?
I have to sprint.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot, Isaac. That's a long way to go, walking and reading and bumping into things. Yeah, you can put your hand on my shoulder and we can just like march down.
Exactly. You carry me.
No.
No carrying. No. Are we walking during the SOT?
Yeah, no, you're walking during the VO.
Oh, during the VO.
Yeah.
Okay.
My IFB doesn't want to work way over here. We try and brain drops walking downstairs again?
I don't know if we're doing the whole walking with me, but I know we're doing it downstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we might just cut the Facebook feed early.
We 10 away.
Yeah.
Stand by.
All right, so this was the first day of school for a lot of kids in Maine, including the students at Belfast Area High School.
Yeah, and day one was made even more memorable by the things they perhaps didn't see. The more than 2-year-long school renovation project is now complete. Students arrived to see a new entryway, new classrooms, locker rooms, and an upgraded cafeteria. It was all made possible due to $7.5 million from the district's taxpayers. The upgrades made a big part of the school barely recognizable to the principal, who, by the way, is also a graduate of the school.
Some of the, funny nostalgia of what the school looked like, myself included, coming back and seeing the new addition to the fine arts wing, and now with a new math and special ed wing. There's definitely a sense of pride and just ownership for the community to have such a beautiful building.
So as these renovations come to a close, school officials will now look at some of the landscaping and upgrade the press box and some of the things along the athletic fields as well.
Awesome.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, really good.
All right, first we're gonna rock, then we're gonna roll, then we're gonna shop. A story of using your means to pay it forward.
Glad you had to do that part. All right, so rapper DMX did something special for Nikki Cutchins and her 2 little girls at, of all places, the Maine Mall. Nikki and her girls were in Journeys on Saturday. That's a shoe store there. And a man beside them at the register asked if they were shopping, school shopping. She said yes. The man sympathized with her, telling her that he had 15 children of his own. Wow. Then he offered to pay for their shoes. Initially, Nikki said no. She didn't know who it was at first, but she relented. And then she found out who it was. She said DMX was so incredibly nice about all of it, and we are so grateful. So what was DMX doing at the Maine Mall? Well, he was buying shoes for himself for a performance that very night at Westbrook's new stage at Rock Row.
How cool is that? Keith, I was going to ask you for some help with my rapping skills.
You did good. You did good. You were in the right zone.
Did you like it with the hand motion?
Yes, I did.
I give it the hand?
You don't want to go too hard, recognizing we're in Maine. You just want to be in the right spot.
Okay.
That's at 15. That's better than Goldberg's doing for the kids.
By 1 or 2.
That's 2x plus 1 Goldberg. Right. Whoa. Although, I haven't seen him in a couple months. He may have had another.
Right, at least one.
I do not know. I have to check Facebook for that. Just some serious thunderstorms we were watching out there. Again, most of the heaviest action down in southern New England, but we just popped this line, and it's very interesting because the models had not keyed in on this being your severe line, yet it's looking better and better as it moves into the mountains. clouds, and it's our only severe thunderstorm at the moment, moving off to the east on the way to Eustis, eventually Flagstaff Lake area. And we're looking at straight line winds being the main threat with this, but there is some shear out there. So we could see a little rotation in a few storms as well. So obviously the model's not doing a great job with this line, but trying to drive it through Millinocket, Waterville, eventually Augusta later on this evening. Should be all settled down by about 9 o'clock though. After that, we're in good shape overnight tonight. And as we've been advertising, tomorrow is the best day of the week. A lot of sunshine, right around 70 degrees, low humidity obviously. So it's going to be coolish in the morning, but end up really nice later in the day. We start with sun on Friday morning, but then clouds start increasing pretty quickly Friday, late morning through midday. And these clouds are actually the outer edge of Dorian. So let's have a look at Dorian now. 110 mile per hour winds. It actually has refocused itself a little bit after looking very ragged yesterday. I would argue it looks better today than it did yesterday. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's still in the Gulf Stream, so it has some warm water to work with. Moving northwest at 8 miles an hour. There'll be a landfall somewhere in the Carolinas, probably as a Cat 2 storm. That's what the National Hurricane Center is projecting. And then it moves out from there, and it is relatively close to us as we knew would be the case. So let's talk about the impacts of Dorian here on Saturday. It'll be cloudy. There'll be some showers and maybe even some downpours along the coastline. The winds, though, should be below the threshold that is concerning, but you'll know it's out there. 40 mile per hour wind gusts a possibility, up to 50 to 55 over down East Maine. So again, below the threshold of any kind of damage as far as what we can know right now, but it will be notably windy along the coast before this thing moves out on Saturday night. And the waves will be big too. This is your wave height map, and obviously the big 30-foot waves are way out to sea, but it does splash some pretty big swells on shore by Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. So yeah, the best way to put it is you'll know Dorian's out there, but it's not going to be, a ruinous event here. Decent on Sunday, mixture of sun and clouds, temperatures in the upper 60s. Stay that way for Monday and Tuesday as well, and then it looks kind of showery on Wednesday. I will tell you that I bumped up a few temperatures there because the models are trying to tell me that next week we could have high temperatures in the 50s.
Wow.
What? So we shall see if that comes to fruition, but I kind of pulled them back right now.
Good.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
Good.
It doesn't
Power
actually
of positive
change
thinking, right?
it though, but for now we'll see.
All right.
Okay, good thing I put the white pants away after
Yeah,
Labor Day.
right after Labor Day.
Wow.
Thanks, Keith. A viral claim about using your phone's voicemail message to inform your friends and family about your status, even without service.
Is this true? We've had our Verify team look into it. Here's Jason Puckett.
Yeah, it's this claim, saying you can use your phone's voicemail message to inform your friends and family where you are and what your status is during service outages. Just record a message. Hey, I don't have service, but our house is fine. It's about noon on Tuesday. Yeah, it's a good idea, but there is one problem. It says you can update your voicemail even without service, and that part is false. Now, many phones will let you change your message on your phone without service, but that message won't actually upload until you do have service. So this is a good tip if you're in spotty service. When you have it, your message can upload and others can hear it, but when you don't have service at all, you won't be able to upload voicemail.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. The two child advocacy groups that prompted a government investigation of YouTube say the outcome doesn't do enough to protect children. YouTube owner Google will pay the Federal Trade Commission $136 million and pay the state of New York an additional $34 million to settle charges of violating children's online privacy. It's also agreed to changes in its business practices. The groups, the Campaign for the Commercial-Free Childhood and the Center for Digital Democracy, say they are pleased with the settlement, but they argue it shifts too much of the burden from YouTube to those who create videos for the service.
In horror of horrors, could the days of binge watching be coming to an end? Netflix is apparently thinking about switching up their release method. So instead of being able to stream an entire season of a show, over a weekend or something, they would do it the old-fashioned way, releasing an episode a week. The company says this will happen with 2 series to start, Rhythm and Flow, and also the next season of the Great British Baking Show. These changes are not sitting too well with a lot of binge watchers online. You can see some of the reactions.
Similar to the works of HBO or that sort of thing. I mean, you got to wait for, Game of Thrones when it's in a current season, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, though. I've kind of come to like the idea of watching, multiple episodes. Matter of fact, bring Cindy in here. We do that all the time.
We
you know?
may be bingers.
Right. Or you just watch a couple of episodes at once.
Yeah.
Kind of. You
You
don't
gotta
watch
know what happens next.
Well, the other thing about the series too is I think often the first one isn't the best, so you have to watch a couple before you decide if you're going to commit.
Exactly.
You can do that in one night.
There you go. There you go.
We got a lot more news coming up on News Center at 5:30. We have heard about Triple E before, a potentially deadly virus transmitted by mosquitoes, and we've seen cases in Maine before. But now a confirmed case this year in York County in a horse has the CDC saying you really need to do what you can to prevent mosquitoes from biting you. We're going to have more on that. And we probably all know cancer patients who have gone to Boston or beyond to take part in clinical trials. But Maine has just gotten a huge grant that will be bringing some of those trials closer to home right here in Maine. And that can literally be life-changing for patients. Those stories and much more ahead at 5:30.
All right, Cindy, sounds good.
All right, we heading downstairs for brain drops?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll see you guys in a bit. If it cuts out, are we going to stay on Facebook, Liam?
We're definitely staying on.
Okay.
But I think I'm just going to
switch to the other camera.
We shall see.
All right, we're staying with you guys.
I have to stop and heat up my coffee too.
Switch cameras to the downstairs cam.
We have a Navy. Why don't the Navy come and drop ice in the warm water so it can't get going as fast as it's going?
Okay, so this went viral. It was a Florida man's idea of how we should stop Hurricane Dorian. So I thought, just for fun, let's figure out how much ice we would need to slow down or weaken Dorian. Now, it's a couple of things here. We're making the assumption that we can isolate the column of water underneath Dorian from the rest of the ocean somehow. Okay, and the other is we're also assuming this is the only thing that impacts hurricanes. It's not, but let's just move forward with the assumptions. Okay, Dorian, as it approached the Grand Bahama, was 200 miles in diameter, and the ocean around that spot is very deep. On average, it is 15,000 feet deep. So the volume of water underneath Dorian is 1.3 times 10 to the 16 cubic feet. Okay, but you can make the argument we only need to cool the top third or so where Dorian is going to be grabbing its energy from to try to feed this warm core system. Okay, so the top third, but we want to drop it about 20 degrees. The water temperature out there is 86 or so. We need to drop it down into the mid 60s for it to appreciably negatively impact how Dorian is going to be developing in the future. Okay, so how much ice would we need to do that? This is when it gets fun. The energy gained by ice has to be equal to the energy lost by the water. It's just a conservation equilibrium principle here. So this is the big long equation. All you need to know is we have all of the numbers we need except this. That's the mass of the ice. So we know the temperature we want it to be, temperature final, and we know the temperature that it would be at the beginning. So we're solving for the mass of the ice. Let's do it. I'll spare you all the drama, which ends up with 15 trillion tons of ice, give or take a little bit. Now let's put that in perspective and go back to the Navy idea. An aircraft carrier is roughly 27,000 tons per aircraft carrier. So you would need this many aircraft carriers' weight worth of ice, which is 567 million. Fun fact, there are 41 aircraft carriers in the entire world. Okay. So in short, I don't think it's going to work. I know that is shocking to everybody, but that's how much ice you would need to even make any impact on something like Dorian.
You should have just asked me. I would have said it wasn't going to work.
Yes, I know, but this is more fun.
Okay.
This is a brain freeze, not a brain drops. Thanks, Keith. News Center Maine at 5:30 starts right now.
Coming up next on News Center.